A lot has happened over the last few days, both politically and to Tesla's business. Today, let's take a look at how institutional analysts and auto experts are viewing Elon Musk's full endorsement of President Trump. What does Elon's endorsement mean for the EV landscape? Why does it even matter at all? We'll watch a video of Gene Munster of Deepwater saying why he thinks this will help with Tesla's autonomy push. I've got Hans Nelson joining us. Hans has an incredible YouTube channel. You should check him out there. He does a lot of short form videos there, and he also does deeper dives into AI and how technology is actually, what it matters for Tesla. And then he also has a podcast with Farzad as well. Thank you so much, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
So today it's about institutional firms, and they've been dry. Later, actually, we'll actually also talk about whether it is the institutional firms that made the stock run up or it's retail, as some people are saying. We'll go through that. But let's start with, this endorsement by Elon, very clearly endorsing President Trump. In the last several days, he's been really pushing that forward. And so let's take a look at what institutional firms are saying about that.
It was another good day for Tesla investors. The stock up, it's only up under 2%, not a huge pop, but Tesla now up 27% this month and 56% in the past 90 days. Now, some see the move as optimism over a possible Trump win. Elon Musk, remember, recently endorsing the former president, posting, quote, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery," unquote. But what, if anything, does Musk's endorsement mean for Tesla and the EV landscape? Why would it matter at all? We might have some ideas. Let's bring in Deepwater Management Managing Partner Gene Munster and former Ford CEO and CNBC contributor Mark Fields. Mark, I got to imagine that the thesis is pretty basic. It's that if Trump does not like EV mandates or tax credits or the Inflation Reduction Act, anything you strip out of the legacy automakers or a Lucid or Rivian or whatever it might be is going to go to Tesla's benefit because they are, for the most part, the least expensive, best option in EVs today.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Brian. And listen, Musk he's not going to change his stance on EVs. I don't think this is what it's about. I think it is exactly what you said, which is, listen, at the end of the day, Tesla is the best position versus all the automakers, including the legacy automakers on EVs. They have the biggest scale, they have the lowest cost, they have the highest margins to withstand an environment where, let's say, Trump pulls a majority of the incentives. So I think that's exactly what this is. And it also, listen, it allows he knows that he may take a harder stance against China, and that may help him in the U.S. because that's one of their biggest and most profitable markets. So it's one less competitor to deal with, and it's a big competitor in terms of the Chinese companies. And listen, the bottom line, a positive relationship with the president has a lot of benefits, not only potentially for Tesla, for things like autonomy or AI or robotics, but his other businesses like SpaceX. He could say to the president, hey, Boeing's, they're convicted felons, so give me a majority of your business. So listen, at the end of the day, Brian, Musk has almost 190 million followers on X. That's over half the country. Yep. That's a big benefit when you got that guy rooting for you.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think about that? His explanation.
Yeah, actually, Mark has a pretty solid, I feel like, argument there. The one thing that I would add to what he said is that I really believe that the next 5 to 10 years are extremely pivotal years for the development of artificial intelligence on a number of fronts, both economically for the world, but also geopolitically, and particularly in the tensions between the United States and China. And I think that, as Tesla investors, obviously the first place a lot of us are going to think about this is how does it affect Tesla for Elon Musk to have a closer relationship with Donald Trump. But I think that in the grand arc of history, it actually may be more impactful as it relates to artificial intelligence. And so there is a piece of that is within Tesla as far as full self-driving is concerned. But then also with X and XAI, I think that right now we don't see a lot of constructive focus from the United States government on artificial intelligence. And I think that right now, obviously Elon Musk is out in the cold as far as the Biden administration is concerned in anything, whether that's EVs or whether that's artificial intelligence. But I think that Elon having the ability to have more input to Donald Trump, who at this point in time looks to be almost assuredly the next president of the United States, I think that that will be a positive thing for humanity as far as his ability to help steer the Trump administration in their response to AI at this, like I said, critical juncture in time.
Yeah, let's take a look at what Gene Munster says of Deepwater, because he is saying that the Trump presidency will help with autonomy, with Tesla's autonomy feature, and so see why he thinks that that's the case.
And Trump probably a fan of Twitter/X because. Mm-hmm. And Gene Munster, was that kind of the point? If you can get a brand new Model 3 for $39,000, you don't need the $7,500. It's nice to get, but if Trump were to strip it out, that's a lot better than a $75,000 Audi or whatever e-tron without a rebate.
The tax credit's nice, but I think that there's something much bigger going on today. Mark talking about some of the other projects that Elon has, and I immediately honed into what was the opportunity around FSD. And solving for full self-driving, solving for autonomy is part a technical problem, also part a political problem. And this endorsement, well, it was predictable and obvious. It does hold some weight. If they can get a favorable, they being Tesla, Elon, can get a favorable environment around the government talking to the states about making some of these full self-driving more available, that can move the needle. Just to put some quick perspective on it, within a few years, there'll be about 10 million Teslas on the road. Half of them get it. That adds $6 billion in their net to their net income. That would increase it by about 35%. This is a huge lever.
I drove 3.5 hours through Wisconsin today before I saw a Tesla in Wisconsin. I thought in New Jersey, I see Teslas all over the place. In Wisconsin, it's like, hey, there's a Tesla on 43. Amazing. I'm being tongue-in-cheek, guys. All right.
Okay. Actually, I like his argument. So now I'm getting it. So Gene Munster is saying that if there's a Trump presidency, right, because Biden was so against Trump, and he actually kind of alluded and said all the departments can go after him, and which one of them is NHTSA. And so this maybe, if he can say Trump is going to support Elon, he will make, the regulations for full self-driving autonomy much more likely to not hinder him. That might be the case. What do you think?
It might be. I would say that, so far NHTSA has been pretty fair with Tesla. And, I think a big part of that is just because Tesla has good data around what it is that they're doing. And that's very helpful in this instance. But there have been a lot of regulatory agencies who have been openly hostile to Elon and, the SEC among them. And so hopefully that atmosphere of basically regulatory open season on Elon will come to a close if Donald Trump does get a spot in the White House. And I think that makes everything a little bit easier. Will we see a dramatic shift from NHTSA towards robotaxis? I don't know. But, part of the point that Gene was making there was that it's also not just NHTSA. There are a lot of state regulatory agencies. So if they can get some advocacy from the federal government to help to sway the state government in their regulations on robotaxis, that's definitely a huge positive benefit as well. And, I would agree, this is an area of technology that China is pushing forward massively. I think the other day we did a segment about one of the analysts from AltCap who went to China, and she was saying that if the technology is like 5 out of 10 in performance, it kind of gets a green light from the government, and that the government regulators in China, their purpose is to accelerate the development of the technology so that they can meet the government's objectives of being world leaders in this area. And that's not how the regulations around this stuff works here in the United States. And it is a critically important piece of technology on the stage of global competitiveness. And so I think if we can get some extra support from our government regulatory apparatus as we try to develop this technology, obviously as safely as possible, then I think that is something that is needed for our nation and would be welcome if that could be achieved in the next presidency.
So institutional firms are viewing this kind of potential Trump endorsement as positive, right? I mean, we saw the Dow Jones, Nasdaq, they all rose. Tesla rose just on the news of what happened with Elon. Apparently, that's the reason. Then you've got, Gene Munster here talking about how he thinks it's going to be actually better and all the reasons you've done that. So at the end of the day, right, this is what we're seeing. Do you think that's the case, that most institutional firms will look at this positively?
It seems so, at least from the outside, and it seems to also make sense. I mean, it would be hard to be in a worse doghouse with the presidential administration than Elon is in with Biden. And so, even if all it is just a change and he's no longer treated as almost, public enemy number one by the administration, just that in and of itself would be a positive. But then if he does have the ability to influence the administration's decision making, then, that's an even better tailwind on top of that. So I think that's where we're at on that front at this point in time.
Okay, let's just a little bit of extra news here is that Elon, there was this news from Wall Street Journal. Lots of other media jumped on it saying that they're claiming that Elon said that he's committing around $45 million a month to a new pro-Trump super PAC. Well, Elon replied back with this: fake news. That's fake news. Picture of these news with fake legs. So fake news. So
I love the meme. It's hilarious. And if you've never had barbecue new, it's delicious.
I've never had.
I don't know if barbecue fake new is good. Oh no, I mean, I'm serious. It is delicious.
I'm not going to do it. Never. All right. So, but I mean, I don't know if he's referring to the fact that he's never said it, that he's not committing 45, maybe it's another number, or that he's not at all. This is all completely lost. But yes, he's confirmed that this is not true. So this other bit of other institutional analysts, here's Wells Fargo. Now they are a bear. They are a Tesla bear. And this guy named Colin Langston said Tesla rally is driven by retail puppy love and won't last. He thinks that the reason why the stock went up is because of retail, not institution. Tesla's recent stock rally is seen as driven by temporary optimism and hype rather than strong fundamentals, according to Wells Fargo. This is Colin Langan. He's kept an underweight rating. He's always been underweight despite anything that's going on with Tesla stock. Contrasting it with other positive analysts, he pointed out weak second quarter delivery numbers and possible tariff risks. He still has a price target of $120, despite it going up to $260, a potential 52% drop from current levels. And he thinks it's because the rally was boosted by better than expected deliveries, approval of Elon Musk's compensation, and excitement about Tesla's robotaxi plans. But he's still negative. What's your thoughts on his thinking that it's retail?
Well, I would definitely say doesn't seem to be, like, if you just look at the trading volume, this does not seem to be the trading volume that would emanate from a primarily retail-led run. I will agree with Colin in the regard that the fundamentals of Tesla haven't really changed a whole lot in the past, 6 to 9 months. But I do think that the stock was artificially depressed by the overhang of the Elon Delaware court drama, and that the removal of that overhang definitely helps to support this rally. And, I would just point out that this is not Colin Roush, who's the really good Colin on Tesla coverage. Colin Langston is historically not a whole lot of signal in there compared to the of noise. His performance is nowhere near that of Colin Roush's. And so, just take what he has to say with a little bit of a grain of salt. But that said, it does seem like volumes have dried up here somewhat recently on trading. And so it could be that we are at this point kind of supported by mostly retail investors, which does leave an opportunity for large institutional investors to come in and move the stock one way or the other. And we'll just kind of have to wait and see how that plays out. But overall, I feel like we are back to a semi-reasonable place with the price. It has, the move recently has been so parabolic and so fast, really kind of unexpected. It would make uh, it would make me a little bit nervous. In fact, I sold a call, I believe, yesterday, just because, as far as my short-term positions are concerned, I feel like this is a good time to just be a little bit more conservative rather than a
Mhm.
little bit more aggressive and greedy. Um, but when I look back at the long term, I'm incredibly excited still. I think that we are in a great position and setting up well, just for the long term execution of the company, which will drive long term outperformance.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So it's, the volume of volume was clearly it was institutionals that made the stock jump up, but now it's possibly retail. But this guy, Colin Langan, he's not very good. And the painted coin pointed this out. This guy's a 2-star guy with 42% success rate. Colin Langan, he's 42%, 0.66% rating.
So just for context, if you gave a monkey a nickel and you asked him to predict which way the stock was going to go, it would do 8% better than Colin Langan.
Okay, Electric Boots points out that based on tip ranks, he's 8,680 out of 8,956 Wall Street analysts. He's like right at the friggin' very bottom. Oh, that's funny. All right. So I wanted to share with you. The next story here is about Ford and Jim Farley. And so Jim Farley, did you just hint that you're partnering with Elon Musk for Tesla's full self-driving? I don't think so, but let's listen in, and I wanted to know what you thought about this clip.
New vehicles that we're making at Ford or any of the Western OEMs are data collection machines. We have to run the vehicles. So they're like mobile drones. We have 8 cameras on the average Ford. Who you talk to, where you go, who you drive by, and in China, we're not allowed to park a Ford next to a government building because of all those cameras. So what is the administration going to do about data privacy? In China, they have those rules. We do not have them in the U.S.
We're talking about concerns about TikTok, but what you're talking about...
Forget about Huawei and TikTok. Think about a Chinese vehicle and what their government could learn about our country, let alone partial electrification. You can crash the car in anything you want.
All right, so I just stop it there. But, people, this guy thought that did he just hint that he is partnering with Elon for licensing FSD? I don't think so. What did you hear?
Yeah, I guess I would be curious what his reasoning is. It just because he said 8 cameras and FSD also uses 8 cameras? Mm-hmm. I definitely that did jump out at me. Hey, 8 cameras. But he said 8 cameras on the average Ford. I don't know what the position of those is. I don't know that is compatible hardware, with Tesla's FSD. And if he's talking about existing models, I'll 100% guarantee you that existing models are not going to be compatible with FSD. So, it would depend on whether he's making a distinction between upcoming vehicle programs that maybe have a different hardware setup than current vehicles or not. But on the flip side, the reason that this speculation exists is that Jim Farley has been the best automotive OEM CEO in the United States when it comes to considering these partnership opportunities with Tesla. We know that Blue Cruise has been a central focus for Jim Farley specifically, and that if he has finally come to the realization that their ambitions with Blue Cruise are not realistic and feasible, it could be that he is considering that partnership with Tesla, just like he initiated the OEM partnerships with Tesla for the supercharger network. So I would say, I think everyone is kind of hoping that Ford will lead the charge once again on OEM partnerships on FSD. That's why we're hearing these types of pieces of speculation. And I hope that is true as well. And I would say there's enough in this clip to keep that hope alive. I don't necessarily know that this clip is definitive in any way, shape, or form that is what's going to happen.
Yeah. I just found what that guy was saying. So this is what he said. He goes, at that clip that we just played, he says, Ford CEO says, the new vehicles we are making at Ford or any of the Western OEMs are data collection machines. We have to run the vehicles. So they're like mobile drones. We have 8 cameras on the average Ford. So it looks like he's highlighted the 8 cameras and the new vehicles we're making at Ford.
Yeah, that's just true. I mean, we've also heard Mary talk about, our cars are now software defined vehicles. Like if you're going to have a software defined vehicle that is primarily a computer on wheels, that is going to be the case regardless of whether you're working with Tesla or not. But it, like I said, it does leave the opportunity to be working with Tesla on the table, and hopefully they execute on that possibility.
I think it's weak, but it's fun.
Yep.
So I wanted to share it. I brought it up. It made me think about it because you had mentioned about how in China and the policies and regulations that they're doing in China is they're promoting anybody who wants to test robotaxis and FSD. They're in support of that. They're not trying to shut you down and put unnecessary regulations on it. And in the US, it could be on the opposite side. Maybe this will change. That's what we're hoping for. Okay.
Well, and just to remind people, that one piece that Jim Farley said that, in China, they're not allowed to park Fords next to Chinese government vehicles. That restriction it did apply to Tesla up until very recently. And that restriction no longer applies, that Tesla's gone through all of the necessary security checks to be able to do that. And not only do they have those, but then also they have the ability to do some preliminary testing of FSD in China as well. And so, that differentiates Tesla from Ford and GM and other companies.
The others.
At the
There's
present
so
time.
many things that if you wanted to catch up to Tesla, it's not just, I'm going to copy the software. You need a supercomputer. You need all these regulations. You need this approval from China. So it's overwhelmingly easier to just partner and license with Tesla. So that's going to happen soon, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Thank you, Hans. Follow him on the YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. And also he's on X at Hans C. Nelson out there as well. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.